Hey there, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of the San Diego Prep Insider High School Boys Golf Podcast. And Jack Klein has been very generous enough to write me an awesome intro. So, the regular season is over, and it is May Madness. CIF begins May 14th. May 14th is when all of this finally comes to a head. We've been talking about some of the best golfers in San Diego County, best golfers in the state, some people who have been kind of coming at it. Just lots and lots of great plot lines, and it's all going to be going down at Admiral Baker. We got 13 days till we're there. So what has to happen between now and then, Coach?
So we've got play-ins. We start play-ins next week, the 7th and 8th. Monday and Tuesday will be round one of the play-ins, and then round two will be the 9th and 10th. And so we have play-ins in all divisions, D3, 2, and 1. So
when this all boils down, there's going to be 24 teams, 40 individuals, all meeting up at Admiral Baker for a 2-day event, correct?
Correct.
So to get to those 24 teams and 40 individuals, like you said, there's a couple series of play-ins. We've got to still figure out some league championships. So just straight bedlam and anarchy remains still between us and even getting to the finals.
Yeah.
That's why we have an expert. That's why we have someone that we call in at all hours of the day to come here with tons and tons of information for us. So you want to go D3, D2, D1?
Sure.
Alrighty, let's start with D3, because D3 always seems to churn out the most interesting parity and competition, and there is like 3 or 4 teams that are just indistinguishably in first place.
No doubt. It's going to be a fun play-in. D3 gets four places, but they have to play in for those 4 places. It'll start with a first-round play-in. Francis Parker will have a play-in. They'll go against Bonsall, and that'll take place on Monday. Then the winner of that will meet La Jolla Country Day.
Number 1 seed, La Jolla Country Day.
They are, and they look awfully strong. So whoever prevails in the Parker-Bonsall, going by the stats, you'd say Parker has a pretty hefty advantage there, but that's why we play the game.
I like to hear you start saying about those teams that you're locking in as your favorites.
Yeah, and the next up we'll have Santa Fe Christian, the 2nd seed against Pacific Ridge. That actually I think will be a really good match. I mean, Santa Fe will be favored there, but both strong teams. I mean, when you look at D3, the Coastal League, which were led by Country Day, Santa Fe Christian.
Basically all the teams you already talked about, yeah.
Yeah, and they're the top 3 teams in there, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Bishops is going to play Classical Academy. That's the final one, and or Vincent Memorial will be the final match against the favorite Mater Dei. So.
Now, out of all of this, it is sort of interesting because we're not necessarily talking about a disparity between D3 and D1 in the way that you would say with football, where physically those kids are much larger than the others. And like any and all of these golfers coming out of the D3 could hypothetically still snake in and win it. So I want you guys to keep this in context of when we're talking about this. We are talking about the D3 race because that is one of the subsets of this competition. But when you throw all of these dudes together in the end, we're still talking about one guy gets hot, goes on a run, puts his team in the finals, puts himself in contention. So do not think that these are individually like D3 over here, D2 over here, D1 way up here. This is a very dynamic playoff scenario where you golf, you golf a 57, you pull a Cameron Sisk, and 2 days later you're a CIF champion for the whole county from D3.
Absolutely, and we've talked about Kento before, and Kento in the league championship shot 69 at CNAir. He's a fine player, and he's someone that will be there at the end of the day at CIF.
Well, let's move up to Division 2 now, because there's somebody buried in this Division 2 race named Jackson Moss who could be a very, very interesting. We'll save the individual hot takes for next week when we're really digging into this, but he plays at Point Loma. Point Loma is a part of this, but really personifies that you need just 1 or 2 dudes to step up. So You got LCC in here with the best individual. We've got La Jolla Cathedral with Shane French. There's a lot of really good golfers in this D2 race. So break down what you see right now.
Yeah, so in D2 they send 8 teams to CIF. 4 are seeded. You mentioned La Costa Canyon, Cathedral.
Yeah, I stole your thunder on that.
No, good. Sage Creek and Point Loma. But there will be play-ins. Sarah plays Bradley first, and the first play-in, and then they'll face number 5 La Jolla. We have West Hills that'll play Mar Vista with an opportunity to play at Valhalla. Then Mission Vista plays at San Dieguito Academy, and finally Saints will go against Fallbrook, and that's the one that's certainly too close to call for the fourth spot there.
So, out of all of this, let's start with that Saints Fallbrook match. Why are you saying that one's too close to call?
Well, their indexes are virtually a dead heat, so that's going to be a terrific match to watch and see who gets that final 8 spot for D2.
And I know that you don't know every single golfer's tendencies, and you can't be in the mind of everybody. But what is something that on a match that's close, that going into it, you're looking at it, that maybe gives you a little bit of a confidence or indication that I like this team versus that team?
Well, I don't have familiarity with Fallbrook, but I can say that the Saints coach is terrific. I mean, he drives his team hard. They play a lot of matches. I think they're well prepared. They play fast. They're used to some pressure. So if I had to go with someone, I think at this moment anyway, I'd look to Saints.
In other sports, you might make the analogy, with like baseball. Oh, that team, lives by the home run, dies by the home run. That team's a heavy passing, or they're really good on defense. In the golf realm, is it the short game? Is it drive distance? What is one maybe bigger determining factor that you're like, I like that team because they really execute in this realm? And yes, they have some weaknesses, but I really just cannot doubt a team that can chip well, that hits the greens in regulation, that drives the fair. Like, what is one big stat that you're really looking at going, man, I love that about a team, so I'm invested in them?
Well, unfortunately, it's a great question, and I wish we were armed with statistics like they are in most sports so that we could really compare the teams. I mean, for me, it always starts from the green out.
That's right. I just wanted you as a raw golf fan telling me. So you're going
putting is really is paramount. Makes all the difference. It's half the shots, and
hence why we are on a putting green filming this one.
There you go. So that would be my. And then short game matters. All aspects matter, but I'd have to say
now you're just getting into a political. Yeah. Everything matters. We love everybody.
But putting is still the short game is where the game is.
It's where you make your money.
Scoring is made. Yep.
All right, up to Division 1. Torrey Pines A, B, C, D, E, and F teams will all be competing against each other for just the Torrey Pines. I'm kidding. Torrey Pines does have 2 teams, though.
Right.
12 teams here from CIF.
Right.
Going to be going into this.
Yeah.
I mean, are we talking about D1 is the odds-on favorite as a team to win? What do you see out of all this?
Well, certainly Torrey is the odds-on favorite. I mean, they've distanced themselves again from the pack, but I see that any of the top 10 teams, which includes a number of the 4 Division II teams, can all compete for that second spot. I fully expect to see. It's going to be really fun to see who shows up on game day. So we'll know as they cut. We go from 24 teams to 12 teams for day 2, and it'll be really fun to see.
That is a brutal cut. Like that, yeah. You don't really necessarily get the field at the Masters or a U.S. Open cut straight in half. Like that is an execution style going out there. Just sorry.
Yeah, and it'll have a big effect on the individuals because we'll start out with up to 40 individuals, as you talked about, and clearly. If some of the stronger teams, but really all the teams that are playing in there will have some strong players, and they may bump some people out and go on to day 2 for those spots.
Now, for all these plans that we're talking about, are we talking 9 holes, 18, 36? How much time does a team have to win or lose one of these spots in the playoffs?
So they are 9-hole matches for the play-in. So just like the season, good question. The CIF itself is 18 holes each day.
So 36 holes will give you some room to finally identify it, but it truly comes down as a shotgun sprint to get through this, to get to the finals. Torrey Pines up here,
Right.
2 through 10,
Right.
indistinguishable? Is there a team that is right on Torrey's heel than everybody else, or is it still too murky to figure out who is going to maybe pull off that second spot?
Well, you're holding my feet to the fire.
I like doing that. I see you squirming a little bit.
I am. La Costa Canyon and Cathedral are number 2 and 3, and
Okay.
I would say that they're the strongest candidates to compete for that second spot. But realistically, when you're less than a shot difference per player, a lot can happen over 18 holes. Absolutely. So I could see, as high as the number 10 team maybe making a run at that second spot if a couple of their players get hot that day.
I like that we're 2 weeks out. I've already got him squirming. Like, that just means that there's going to be anarchy and chaos, because when you have an actual member of the PGA not able to decipher who is going to do what in the next couple weeks, that just shows you how close everything is, how quality everything is. Just look. It's exciting, and we're going to be with you every step of the way, folks. Next week, we'll be back with the play-ins. We'll more than likely all be done. We'll be down to the last couple of spots. We'll have some individuals to talk about, and then we'll see you for both days at Admiral Baker. Like I said, it's the 13th and 14th.
14th and 16th,
14th.
Monday and Wednesday.
It's 14th and 16th at Admiral Baker. We will be there in the clubhouse talking to all the players both days, so keep it tuned here or come join us. You can all do gentle golf claps together and check that all out. Thank you so much for sticking with us all season long, sports fans. We'll see you next week.